It is so good to have you here on the call. My partner in crime, my good buddy from we were just in Colorado together. We were skiing just a little while ago. How is everything going for you?
Man, it's going awesome. All the challenges and excitement of leading a couple businesses and having a couple kids and a wife and all that insanity. So it's good.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, it's and also you're also adding more to your life by doing the 75 hard. I understand right now. You're probably what, at least a month in on that now?
Yep, 31 days. I've got to drink a gallon of water a day, two 45-minute workouts, just crazy. So yeah. So of course, we never make things easy. We just add to the complexity of our lives and businesses as business builders. But yeah, so that's on top of everything else.
I love it. I love it. Well, for those that may not know who you are yet, I'll do a quick intro to you, and then you can share a little bit more about your history and kind of where you're at today. But I had the pleasure of meeting you, Lars, just through some mutual friends here at EXP, and I'm so blessed that our paths crossed. And you've definitely been an asset to me. I mean, even though we are in different groups and all that kind of stuff, we're at one brokerage that we're working together at, and you've shared some really unique ideas and some stuff that's made me think differently. So I just want to publicly say thank you so much for all that you've done. And I know you've also helped so many other agents out there, obviously with EXP, but then also prior history. I mean, you have a real estate coaching school, and called Real Estate B School, and I know it's super successful. You've worked with some of the top real estate team leaders and agents in the entire industry, all over the country. And so you're doing a lot of great things. I know you're like a thought leader. You have a really unique vision as far as like how you see things being. And you're just an overall good person. So I'm so happy to know you, Lars. But real quick, if you don't mind, share with some people just a little bit of stuff that maybe I didn't cover. Share maybe your backstory, if there's how you got to where you're at today, and catch us all up.
Yeah, and before I go into my background to give a little bit of context, it's funny the way I came into this world, this unbelievable opportunity that's EXP is, I really got so much out of the stuff you put into the world, So I when I met you for the first time, I'm like, dude, that's Kyle Handy. Like, like you've been at the content game serving our industry for so long. So you are a true asset to the industry. So I'll give a little bit of a background, just for some context. Licensed in 2006, left a cozy corporate job in 2007, just as the market was shifting here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, got really busy as a solo agent, and I just went down the leverage path, meaning I built systems and I had people come in and run those lower dollar productive systems. And, you know, 27 homes in my first 10 months, 44 homes in my first full year, 58, 118, 178, 248, 312, 420 or so. So 2014, I sold the most amount of homes. And the claim to fame is that I only worked 40 days that year or something like
Wow.
that. So super lucrative. I figured out leverage at the highest level. And then in 2013, I launched Real Estate B School to help top agents and team leaders, build profitable, sustainable businesses where they can sit in the owner's seat rather than grind out transactions. And that business has been, anywhere from $1.5 million to $2.5 million business over the last, 8, 9 years or so. And then September 11th, 2020 is when I pivoted pretty hard into EXP after saying no to it for, everyone before they come in, they say no to it, so it's just a question of how long you're going to say no to it before you're like, oh man, I wish I would have joined earlier. And this is coming from the guy that was the hardest no that there could be around EXP. So, and I know this isn't the EXP show, but if you are listening and you're like a hard no on EXP, take it from somebody that, not that I have a regret around saying no for all those years, but if you're closed off to it, just allow someone into your life that can at least slow you down and help you study it. Because 5,000 plus families served in real estate, a fully leveraged coaching company where I work about 2 to 3 hours in that business every week now. And now I have this global opportunity to build a team across the world with, with EXP. There's nothing that I've done that has been more fun and more lucrative than what I'm doing right now. I was just on a call with a guy in Spain, whose name is Lars, who's in my
No way.
organization. Yeah, and we were strategizing around like how we can, build in, he has multiple, he's like speaks four different languages, and he's got experience in Italy and Spain, and he knows, and like in what world that would never have happened in my
Mm-mm.
world,
Yep.
so just a wild opportunity. But yeah, I think the one thing, looking back on all of my journey, and I've made all the mistakes you could make, I was never willing to let the business, and this is why I think we connect so well, me and you, because I admire this in you. You had a point where the business was getting in the way of you doing the things that really mattered. I
Mhm.
had that point in my business as well. And then I just finally drew a line in the sand where I wasn't willing to let that happen anymore.
Yep.
And so everything I've been pursuing, it's like, how do I build something that can serve, a lifestyle, or, allow others to benefit from what I've built, so that I can kind of do other things and have a bigger impact in the world. So I think we share that. We share that as well.
Absolutely. And you have already made a huge impact even in this company. I mean, just like you said, pretty recently joined, and you're probably, I would say, if not one of the fastest growing agents within the company. I mean, you've already built a team of over 1,000 agents. I know recently. What's your number at now? How many agents do you have total in your group?
I mean, I got to check.
It changes
11,
every day.
1181.
1181. That is
Yeah.
massive. And you've officially been at EXP for how many months now?
Yeah. So September 11th, 2020. So I
Okay.
guess
Yeah.
April 11th would have been 19 months.
19, that is crazy, man. So that, yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. And I mean, the coolest thing is just how much value that, you add to the company, to your group, to everybody. So, I mean, obviously, like I say, I think that's a great testimony to the company. Like you just said, this is an amazing company to be at, but the fact that we get people like yourself who's willing to pour in and, have the beliefs that you do, that's awesome. So, very cool. Well, I'm so man, when you were rattling off your numbers for like your real estate sales, I was like, oh my gosh, like he knows to the T, like juice, 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 juice. I was like, wow, man, I wished I still remembered all my numbers like that. There were never as many sales as what you did, but that is really wild. And so yeah, what I want to do, Lars, if you don't mind, because I get a lot of agents that they're just kind of maybe getting started with teams, or maybe they have a team, but it's not quite producing to the level that they would hope that it would produce, or they're going through some growing pains and they're like, man, like there's all these different like stages that kind of team leaders go through. And I was hoping to maybe just kind of, talk to you a little bit about just your experience with all that, but then also on the coaching side, like you see a lot of these team leaders, you see some of the common pitfalls, all this stuff. So I really want to dive in deep just on like a lot of the team stuff, because I think that can really help out with the audience here. So one of my first questions, and this is probably one of the ones that I get most often, is just agents that let's say they're doing a good amount of volume, maybe they've been in the business for a little while, they're not quite sure when they should start their team. Like what would you say to somebody like, when's too soon, when's too late, like when's the right, like what should somebody be doing or thinking about, like when they should actually start their team?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I see a lot of agents go to the team before they're even in a position to do so, only because they have so many years in the business. They're so burnt out. Like they think just surrounding themselves with a bunch of agents is going to be the answer, and typically it's a recipe for disaster. So, it's funny, the way that I built it is still the way that I would teach it, knowing everything I know today. It's deciding what your time is worth, and then just getting everything off of your plate that doesn't fit that. So I'll give you a real example. 2007, I worked 10 months in real estate. I left my corporate job March 5th, 2007. So roughly 10 months. I netted 38,000. So there's a lot of stories around how the 250,000 I grossed turned into 38,000 net. I won't tell any of that, but 38,000, roughly 2,000 hours I worked in those 10 months. So I made about, it was 37,000 because it was $18.50 an hour, roughly.
Wow.
And I'm like, I worked really hard. I did more deals than any agent in my office, and I was the rookie agent, but I didn't take home a lot of money. So clearly I needed to be I brought the deals in, and that seemed dollar productive, but I was also making photocopies. I was designing my own brochures. I was entering listings into MLS. Like I left a corporate job where we had, still they were doing important things, but we had administrators that would help me prepare for a meeting or a strategic planning meeting. They would do my slides for me. They would book my travel. We had janitors that cleaned out the trash bins. Like, you get into real estate and all of a sudden you do everything. So the first thing I would recommend is, just look at where you're spending your time. I think a well leveraged agent can sell 40 to 50 homes on their own with a good licensed administrator.
Mhm.
So, if you're not making $500,000 take home and you're working more than a 40-hour work week on average, I would start with that goal. I would
Mhm.
say, hey, listen, I want to make a $500,000 in real estate. And this may be so far fetched for you, but it's going to allow you to shift your mindset in a way where I think it's going to serve you. I want to make 500,000. I want to work, 2,000 hours or 40 hours a week, which is like, no way, that can never happen. But that's the formula that I went from $18.50 an hour. It took me about 4 years to make a 500,000, then another few years to make almost 1 million, and work less out, a whole lot less hours. I worked, like what, 40 days, like roughly 300 hours that year. I made the most amount of money. And so it's the mindset of like, if I could follow you around, you meaning the listener that's doing deals, and you think you're ready for a team, if I could follow you around for 2 weeks and smack you over the head every time you were doing something that you could hire out for $25 or less per hour. Now, $25 an hour times 2,000 hours is $50,000 a year.
Mhm.
So think about the level of talent. In some markets, you can't get the best admin talent for that. In some markets, you can get two world-class administrators for 50 grand. So you just have to smack yourself in the head every time you're doing low dollar productive activities. And that puts you in a position, usually in admin hires, the first thing you do, and then get out of showing homes.
Yep.
So if you're doing all your own admin work and you're showing homes in my market's about a 25 to $30 an hour activity.
Mhm.
So if you want to scale and you want to build something, you have to stop doing anything administrative. You have to stop showing homes. You really have to stop leaving. You can't really leave your office if you want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you find yourself essentially in your car all the time, you're not making a lot of money.
Yep.
You can't, right? And most agents are in their car all the time. They're running business errands or personal errands all day long, and they're not actually doing the work of a top salesperson or a business builder.
Yep.
And if you're not doing like prospecting or building a marketing system, you're doing some sort of business owner work. And if you're doing all the other stuff, that's not, it's kind of what a traditional agent does, but it's not what an agent that wants to build a real business does.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's good. I mean, because yeah, I think back too, and it's like, man, knowing what I know now, I definitely would have done things differently. I didn't build it right the way I was doing it, and I went and straight, before I even hired the admin, I was like, I'm gonna get more agents. Like that's the solution to get more deals is get more agents, and then I can build a team that way. And it was like going about it all backwards. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but like literally, that's how I did it. So it's like hearing you say it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like yeah, I mean, I definitely know that now. It seems like so like why would I do it any other way? But it's like I totally didn't do it that way to get started. And so just hearing you say it so clearly, I think it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I appreciate that.
And I guess it naturally kind of moves into to the next thing that I see across the board, the mistake that's made when you surround yourself by other agents. You really don't know who you're looking for when you go out looking for agents. You're like, in your case, it was an independent brokerage, but let's say you're in a franchise and you're trying to build a team, you'll sort of take anybody.
Yeah.
You're just like, you just think bodies are the
Yep.
answer, but you don't have any clear core values, which is just like a set of guidelines that you hire by. And you're hiring people that have not proven themselves in any way to be performers. Like, I'd rather hire someone who's 22 that was like, I don't know, the captain of their lacrosse team at college, and they held three jobs, and they didn't have they didn't have their parents pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And they had some sort of like innate disciplines or drive, And those are all things you can find out before you get into business with somebody. There was a sermon my pastor preached. It was, the series was called The Power of Potential, but it was very specific. And I remember I probably missed the whole biblical message, but it was patterns versus potential. And he was talking to the ladies in the room. He said, ladies, like, you see these guys and you want to see all the potential in them, but they're 30 years old. They live at home. They've got an unbelievable amount of consumer debt. They're addicted to porn. They like don't take care of themselves physically. Like, all of a sudden, this person that has no pattern of achievement or no pattern of discipline, all of a sudden you're going to start dating them, and magically they have
Yeah.
all this potential to be this man of your dreams. And I remember when I heard that, it was like, and you should share it. I'll send you the link. Share it in the
Yeah.
show notes of this, because it's powerful. It's only a minute long,
Yeah.
and it's the best business advice I ever got. Um, we look for potential in agents that we hire, and we don't actually look for the patterns.
Yep.
I could easily ask you, Kyle, if I'm interviewing you, I say, Kyle, so tell me about your morning routine. You're
Yeah.
like, my morning routine is like, I get up at 9 o'clock, like I check social media for an hour. I I go gaming for a couple hours, and, it's like, okay, I don't want you on my team,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and tell me about your background. Like, how were you raised? They'll say,
Yeah.
well, was raised, like, my kids are going to have a hard time. They were raised in a super cush environment, don't have to work for anything. But the kid that was raised in maybe a divorced home that has a chip on his shoulder,
Mhm.
he had to get his first job when he was like, I remember, like, to get my first job, I wasn't even of age to be employed.
Yep. Dude, you named me
So
to the
like,
T.
yeah. So, there's definitely things you can do before you go into business with somebody.
Yep.
And across the boards, I was talking to a guy yesterday. We both know this guy. He's like, my team exhausts me. He's like, I don't want to be around them. I don't care for them. I'm like, did you have any filter, in terms of hiring these agencies? Like, not even a
Yep.
little bit.
Yep.
They just said yes. They applied and they said yes. And I'm like, it's maybe 1 out of 20, probably 1 out of 50 can hang in your core team. Now, I'm not talking EXP and the 1,200 agents
Right.
in my organization. There's tools that we put out there that can help, so many agents. But
Right.
your inner circle, like, if
Yep.
you want to build like a high performing real estate team, it's got to come with a very clear set of core values.
Absolutely. No, that's well said. Well said. I can definitely say that, from experience that is 100% accurate, 100% correct. Yeah, you don't want to just take on people just to get the numbers up because it'll bring them down. I mean, yeah, honestly, it's like, not only will they not do business, but then it'll actually hurt what you're already doing. Like if you had any kind of momentum, it's going to start to kill that. So, but well, cool. All right. So, yeah, that's now so we talked about like kind of the traits and things like that you would look for a team agent, or like if you were looking to hire an agent on your team, but like just like knowing what when you talk to like top performing team leaders. So let's say, now they're not even just like a team leader that's doing, 20, 30 million, but like let's say like $100 million team leader or above, something like that. Like what are some traits that you see in these agents that maybe you don't see in some other ones, that like you're like, man, that's why this person is so good because they do X, Y, or Z, or because they're this way.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is that maybe not 90%, but 80% of the big teams are a facade. They're not profitable. They're not well run. The economic model is flawed. And that's after 1,000 conversations
Yep.
pre-EXP, 1,000 strategy
Yep.
sessions with folks that have done at least 500,000 GCI, more like 750K, and they've already started building a team. It's not set up any way that you would want it to be set up, like a real business should be run.
Yeah.
There's no accountability of expenses. There's no accountability of people. They're not following any economic model whatsoever. They're spending money on leads and they're not tracking. They haven't optimized their lead conversion, sequences or any of that. They're not squeezing the lemon. They're one and done on leads.
Hmm.
So that's my first thing to say, is that
Yeah.
do not compare yourself and think that just because a team is putting out
Right.
high numbers that they've got anything figured out. One of our, obviously I won't name this person, but the largest team I've coached, 6 million GCI. The guy netted less than a million, and his personal production was 750.
Wow.
So do the math on this, and
Yeah.
he carries about 150 to 160,000 monthly overhead, and he
Wow.
works 80 hours a week. So he does about 750,000 personal GCI. He's not making a million net profit. So
Mhm.
let's say he made 900,000, 750 of the 900 is his personal production. He's working 80 hours a week, and he has the stress of 25 agents on his team, a
Yep.
bunch of administrators. None of it's sort of coordinated in the right way. He's not following the right economic model. He's not tracking any of his lead sources. He's haphazardly spending money. But when you look at it from the outside, you're like, man, that guy has got it figured out. I would love to have a $6 million. Like, you couldn't pay me $2 million to take that business.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want it, because I wouldn't want to
Yep.
go into production
Yep.
again,
Yep.
right? I'd rather work less hours and make less money
Yep.
than have to, like, he's not even hardly making his own personal production.
Yep.
And it's just, it feeds the ego. So
Right.
I think your question was, what do they have?
Y
So I'll comment on the 20% that are
the
actually running good
yes,
businesses.
yes. What separates
These,
them?
these team leaders have taken their time to grow their business, not in this fast and furious pace and just a bunch of paid lead sources and a bunch of mass media and billboards. And, like, they've followed an economic model which is simple, that you have rules around how much money you spend on marketing, how much money you spend on administrators, how much money you spend on overhead, how much money you're allowed to spend on your agents in terms of splits. um, they're typically folks that love their team members, that they really have a heart for helping others succeed. I was challenged a little bit in that way when I grew my business, because I was so ready to get out of production, and I was like, you know, I was not the best team leader until I actually figured it out. So it does take some figuring out. I would say the other thing, most of them, if they're running a team, a business that is worth owning, they track their numbers,
Yep.
like, on a daily basis.
Yep.
They know every day how many buyer consults were set, how many buyers were met for the first time, how many became clients, were welcomed into the family as a buyer client. Same thing on the listing side. They know how many, by agent, how many meaningful conversations every agent had. How many nurtures they added to the database on a daily basis. Their agents are uploading their numbers for the day.
Mhm.
They're role playing every day.
Mhm.
Once a week, they have a cadence in the team where, they're training, they're breaking bread together in a team meeting once a week. They're having fun together as a team, uh, like at least once a quarter, probably once a month. They're doing something fun together as a team.
Mhm.
When the market is challenged, like it was challenged in 2008, 2009, and it's challenged now. I mean, if you're working with
Mhm.
buyers now, like, it's hard. You're working 10 times as hard right now. So they're in those situations. They're encouraging, they're helping get those offers accepted. They're calling those listing agents on behalf of their buyer agents to make sure that they understand that, I'm behind this, and I've talked to the buyer, I've talked to the lender. They're having their lenders call those sellers, as those listing agents as well. Um, I would say, in a nutshell, those are the things that I see, and their people love them.
Yeah.
That these are real. It's been said that there really only should be one kind of leadership, is servant leadership.
Mhm.
I did not start out my leadership journey anything close to a servant leader, and it's
Yep.
it's it's not proud for me to say that. But over the years, I've figured it out. With some really tough conversations with people I've let down and I've taken advantage of, or not taken advantage of, but taken for granted, for sure. But the world class team leaders that I see are really, they're servant leaders, but there's a really good book. It's Flock,
Ooh.
what is it? It's something about it's a leadership book. I got to find it because it's
Yep.
probably the best. Flock Shepherd, something Shepherd, leadership Shepherd.
Let me
I'm going to
see here.
find it because I
I'll
want your
type it in
listeners,
here.
if they're getting into it, leadership
Let's
book
see.
Shepherd. We'll find it and put it in
Yeah.
the
The
show
Way
notes
of the
for sure.
Shepherd?
The
No.
Way of the Shepherd, probably the
Or the
best
Shepherd Leader?
book
Oh,
that
that is it? Okay.
The Way of the Shepherd,
Nice.
Dr. Kevin Lehman and Bill Pentak.
Okay.
So I highly recommend that book. And, it's something that you really want to. And honestly, I tripped and failed and flubbed my way through leading a team. But if there's one thing that there's so many good resources out there, on leadership development and just making sure you're ready to take care of others and have that mindset of a shepherd and its flock. And which I was I was many steps ahead in some ways in my business building journey, but with respect to that part of it, I was always a step behind. So if I could go backwards in time, it would be become a better leader before I had people follow me.
Yeah.
Probably the only not regret, but the only thing I would have done differently, I think, in my business journey.
Yeah, no, no, that's good. I mean, we can all like, especially for me, like that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm trying to learn even better now because yeah, I'm the same way as you. Is when I was leading a team, I'm surprised people even did follow me, but it was kind of like I definitely wasn't doing it the right way, knowing now definitely a better way of doing it, and so I'm trying to live out better as far as like as a leader now to my group. But yeah, I think back when I had my actual sales team, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was that way. So but no, that's really good advice. Now I want to dig into the economic model that you kind of had mentioned, and so like and give like maybe an example of let's just say like somebody comes to you, Lars, and they're like, hey. This was the first year I did $1 million in GCI. It was my first year to do $1 million in GCI. Like, what would a good agent, that 20% of agent, what would like they expect to keep on that? Like, what would you say a good number is to keep on that? And then the money that they are spending, that they're investing back into their business, what percentages should go into different categories?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the fact that most teams don't even have an economic model. So an economic model, just to back up one step, is like you decide in advance what your business is going to look like from an economic standpoint when it's fully built out. So if you've ever read the Red Book,
Mm-hmm. Millionaire
Million
real estate
Millionaire
agent.
Real Estate
Yep.
Agent by Gary Keller, like I don't think those numbers work exactly, but the economic model in there is like at 2.4 million,
Mm-hmm.
doing what they say in the book, you'll net a million.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't proven that out, and I have
Yep.
yet to coach a team that can prove that out, but it's still an economic model. Um, so um, the mindset around this is important, though, where we mostly, if you've achieved at a high level in your real estate business, you bring the mindset more often than not. You bring the mindset in. The first decision you need to make is the compensation you're going to offer agents that join your team.
Mm-hmm.
And we incorrectly bring in the mindset, well, if they can just go be an agent in the market center or at EXP, a solo agent, pay their own cap, why, and then keep the rest, why would they ever come take a split from me?
Right.
So we have something we call I think it's the 8 types of compensation in real estate. And this is not an EXP thing, but it's straight up like commission is only one of the 8.
Yep.
But as an agent, like you have new agents getting into the industry that haven't sold a home yet, and they're talking about like, hey, what's your commission splits? It's
Yeah.
like you should be asking the question of me as your team leader is like, do you have a clear path for me to get to 150,000 by my
Right.
second year in real estate take home?
Yep.
We know from NAR, their income studies show that 16-year veterans in our industry gross $79,000.
Wow.
16 years in, the average agent grosses under
Yep.
$50,000. A 2-year agent grosses about $10,000.
Yep.
And those are about a year old, but you can 80 something percent of agents do not renew their license on month 24.
Yep.
So when it comes the second time to pay their local real estate board, they don't do it. So the failure rate in real estate is so
Mm-hmm.
monumentally high because there is no system to get you to earn 6 figures. So you need to decide what your system is going to be. If you're going to try to compete with somebody offering 100%, like you're not going to be able to compete. So it's not it's what they take home, versus the number of hours they put into their business and the stress that they endure coming on your team. So we had a real clear path to 150, 200. We have agents. We had agents taking home 300 plus thousand per year. But when I say the splits, people are like, no way could I ever get someone to take this. One agent was 78% of their production came to the team. They only took home 22%. So how could that possibly be? Because on our team, we had someone like that was running personal errands for them. They never, literally never left the office. We had sellers come into the office, buyers come to the office. They did all their consults in the office. They weren't showing homes because we had showing agents, so that's not every team. But if you can imagine just coming in, if all you got to do is come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay until 6, and your day is full of dollar productive activities on a team that I helped design, it was a $300,000 a year take home.
Hmm.
Still working hard, still working some offers on the weekends, but you've got more freedom of time and money in that environment. So that's the first decision is, and we call it value-based commission splits, based on the value that the agent on your team provides versus the value you provide as the team leader. What's the split going to be?
Hmm.
Are they going to take 30 and you take 70 on some lead sources? Is it going to be
Yep.
50-50, or they take 60 on their sphere?
Yep.
We had sort of tiered splits, but the overall you want to keep about 65% or so
Yep. I agree.
with you fully out of production. So you can only afford to pay out about a third to your buyer agents and your listing agents when the
Yep.
thing is fully baked.
Yep.
You don't have to understand how you do that, right? Because there's all these other, the leadership, the administrative part, the marketing,
Yep.
the systems, the technology, the physical office space. Those are all other forms of compensation that typically a team leader provides that you won't get if you just go to 100% shop or
Right.
direct to the market center or direct to EXP or whatnot. So that's the first decision, is that you need to keep as much money as possible after you pay your agents.
Yep.
And then from there, it's simple. There's only three numbers to remember. Number one is the amount of money you spend on lead gen and marketing,
Hmm.
roughly 10%. The amount of money you spend on administrators, roughly 10%.
Okay.
And everything else, which is we just call overhead, is another 10%.
Okay.
So if you're paying about a third out to agents,
Hmm.
and let's say it's actually 10 to 12% for each of those categories. So let's say you pay out 33%, 11% for admin, 11% for marketing, 11% for overhead.
Hmm.
With you out of production at a $2 million business, you're roughly taking home, working a 30-hour work week,
Hmm.
33% of whatever your top line is. So if it's a
Yep.
$3 million business, you're taking home a seven-figure net income,
Yep.
and you're not working with any buyers or sellers whatsoever.
Yep.
So that's like an economic model, right or wrong, whether you like it or not, whether you adopt a different one or not. You have to actually have an economic model, which
Yep.
most, that's why brokerage is like, probably from your example, an independent broker, like most of them haven't thought about like, hey, if I just get to 100 agents, this thing is going to be great.
Yeah.
And there really isn't any thought of what it's going to look
Mm-mm.
like. What's the economic model at 10 agents, 20 agents, 30 agents, 40 agents? Now you have 40 agents sucking the life out of you,
Yep.
and you're not making much margin on them. You still have to sell your own homes, and life is beyond miserable.
Oh yeah.
And it's not even when you get to 40 agents, it's at like 10 to 12 agents where you're like, there's so many independent brokers out there that honestly just need to reach out to you and come into EXP and just realize that they can give up all broker responsibility. They can give a tech stack, a training opportunity, health insurance, 5 ways to earn stock, and they could bring their friends in and earn residual income
Yep.
and probably pay less. You get rid of every headache, and now you have an unbelievable upside.
Yeah.
So it's my short pitch. If you're an independent broker, you're trying to build a team, you need to just envision that there's a different way. Put your
Yep.
ego to the side
Yep.
and just look at this thing as the most graceful platform that's ever been built for our industry. Take me for example. It took me 2013. I launched Real Estate B School. It took me, like, we got up to maybe 150 members, paid coaching members. Now we're down about 100 or whatever, but roughly to 100 to 150 in every bit of 8-9 years, doing all the crap online, trying to compete with all the guys saying the same thing. In 19 months, I'm now responsible. My flock grew from 100 to 1,200 people.
Wow.
Like it is unbelievable. and you still have like KW market center owners like trying to, or any regional, like trying to sell franchises anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like
Yep.
on a slow month, I brought in 100 agents, and they're like, no, it's not possible. Like recruiting is hard. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yep.
what to tell you.
I
So I
love
didn't
it.
mean to pitch it to
No,
pivot towards
no.
EXP,
I,
but
I I think it's worth being said. I mean, everybody or a lot of people know my story. I mean, I was right there, like you said, 15 agents at my independent, and literally that was the sweet spot of suckiness for having an independent brokerage. Like it was the worst. Like I was losing money, tons of responsibility. All my agents thought I was making a ton of money, so they didn't want to pay me anything. Like it was just like the worst of everything was coming right at that spot. So no, I love what you just said. So I appreciate that. Real quick, one of the things that I know this is maybe getting a little bit more kind of like into the newer times now is people are starting kind of some of these like expansion teams, and I'm not talking like like exp, like my expansion team is all over here. I'm talking like actual sales teams where it's like, hey, they might start in this market, and now instead of growing more into that market, they're like, I'm gonna actually start in another market over here or here. What have you ever coached up any team leaders that are thinking about or that have done that, or what are your thoughts in general about like trying to expand or to like get into different markets when potentially they could still be in their own backyard?
yeah. So I'm trying to think of how to answer this because I was at one of the first ESO, expansion systems optimization classes that Gary Keller taught.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to sit down with Gary for almost, it was a 15-minute that lasted 90, almost 2 hours long. And I was not at Keller Williams at the time. And, um, and so I'm trying to answer it in a way where it's not like totally kind of in the face of like one of the few billionaires I know. So there's anything I say after this moment, like Gary's forever like number one or number two position in the Hall of Fame of real estate. So
Yeah.
so all that goes without saying. But
Yeah.
I was in the room when he pre Keller Williams days where he was saying expansion was the way to expand your footprint, right? And he pushed out his henchmen. That's what they were called. These 10 guys that were willing to go out and do anything Gary said at the time. 7 years later, I'm in KW in the top 100 mastermind where he's like, guys, you should have known that it would have taken 7 years for these guys to become profitable in that expansion model. Like these guys just cut their teeth on, and it's just because now you're actually going to add an additional layer of overhead into a platform where there's massive overhead.
Hmm.
Like, and this is a direct comparison, expanding in EXP versus
Yep.
expanding anywhere else.
Yep.
They're all independently owned franchises. I was in the room when Gary said I would not do Keller Williams in a franchise model if I could do it over again. He said I would literally have 25 MREA teams in 25 different markets, and I would net 25 million a year. My life would be way simpler. I wouldn't have all these pissed off franchise owners. And so there's a way more elegant way to expand these days
Yeah.
anymore where so what I think about it is my biggest recruit, the my biggest team that came to join me directly came from Keller Williams. The reason he came over is that he has this like, he is one of the smartest guys I know. He could have joined under 20 different people. um, he liked this my systems approach and some things I was doing, but he had a failed expansion. He expanded, and all these differing interests, different ownership, different team leader. And this is a KW example,
Hmm.
so it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they basically disbanded. He built this team, and they disbanded them into individual agents in that market center because it served that market center better.
Wow.
So expansion for us looks like, I talked to Lars in Spain today. I'm
Hmm.
launching New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally, someone found me on YouTube,
Yep.
and I'm in, like she has an admin position in the New Zealand launch team, but she's also allowed to build, and ground floor opportunity in New Zealand, and she came from Australia, so we're going to open up like expansion, and I pay, what do I pay? Would I pay $85 a
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
right? So my cost of building this is $149.
Yep.
That was the heavy lift on the front end of this, $149 startup fee and $85 a month.
Yep. That's insane.
50 states. I've got brokerage operations in 50 states. I've got brokerage operations in 7 provinces in Canada,
Yep.
plus 18 other countries, and we're adding a country a month.
Yep.
Like when you begin, like if your mindset, if you're a team builder or a team leader, where you own an independent brokerage, and you obviously want to grow, but the platform that you're in does not allow you to grow the way that you can grow if you're just in a different platform. And so that's the thing that I get most excited about, is that we've never seen an opportunity to expand in so many different ways too. Like I said, when I came into EXP, I learned more about EXP from your website than any other resource out there. So you've chosen, like, the value you provide people that partner with you at this point, because you did what, 4 years of content
Oh yeah.
creation every freaking day, right?
Yeah.
So now you have this asset that everyone in your organization can benefit from.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of that, but I provide a little bit of different things for
Yep.
my group. But um, it, there you there is no exit strategy anywhere else.
Right.
So nobody else is giving you stock. Nobody else is giving you healthcare.
Yep.
Our best agents are giving away their best stuff. I was
Yep.
just in EXP University, our live calendar. Tomorrow, there's like 11 icon trainings going on. So
Wow.
an icon agent in our company is someone that has sold probably around 30 to 50 homes. And a cultural requirement is to give away their best stuff and to
Hmm.
train. And there's like you can't even attend them all,
Yep. Yeah.
but they're like, whatever you need: social media, working with buyers, taking listings in this unbelievably tight market, the shift that might be coming. All of our best agents are giving away their best stuff. So it's unbelievable. I know I went on a rant there, and
No,
I
I
have to
love
say
it.
it where, you know, like I said, Gary Keller is an idol to many. He's and he doesn't care about what I say. So I'm not saying this like I'm going to hurt his feelings. And he's super successful, Hall of Famer. Um, but he just doesn't have the right platform for this time.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't build a franchise model in our industry
Mm-mm.
knowing the power of the network marketing model for our
Yep.
industry. And
Yep.
this is coming from the guy that hated network marketing. But to get paid referral fees and help agents at a bigger on a bigger scale, that's all we're getting. Is like, last month I got $89,000 of referral fees.
Wow.
19 months
Wow.
in what world would that ever happen? There's no broker owner in my entire market of 2.4 million people in Charlotte. There's probably not a single owner of any brokerage or franchise in my market that cleared $90,000 last month.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
like, how does that happen? Right. So open your eyes if you haven't studied it, and reach out to Kyle.
That's like
KyleHandy.com/partner.
I love it all. You're the best like hype man that I can have, man. Thank you, Lars. No, I
It's truth. That's
uh
the thing about it. The thing that most of us resist, if you haven't looked at it and you think it's like cheesy or like a bunch of recruiters and we just want to throw people into our downline,
mm-mm.
that's the only reason you would not have studied. The most disruptive thing that's happened to our industry in the history of our industry, and if you have a license and you haven't studied it, that's the reason I didn't study it. So you just got to get over that and reach out to somebody that's not gonna, like, sell you into something that's not in
Right.
your best interest. Just take the time to study it with somebody.
That's right.
That's what you need to do for yourself. It's not going to impact Kyle's life, if you don't enter, or my life if you don't join,
Hmm.
but it may change your life forever if you
Yep.
look at EXP and you partner with somebody that can help you. So,
Yep.
yeah.
100%. Well, Lars, I know we got to wind things down here. And, I'm super appreciative of your time and just, you sharing a ton of knowledge with a lot of, the people in the audience that are watching. And, but before we go, real quick, maybe just share with me, what you're looking for, like on the horizon, like any trends, any thoughts that you just have in general about, like, the near future, the next like year to 2 to 3 years, like what's on your radar? Like, what are some opportunities? What are some things that you're seeing that maybe other people aren't seeing yet? Anything you can share with that real quick?
Oh, and be positive about it, or
Be
negative, or the
be
extreme.
honest, be honest. No, I mean,
Okay,
you have so
so
much knowledge, so
honestly, I think just on a personal level, and like a personal finance level, I think, and this is politics aside, I think just stuff is going down in the world that you just need to be prepared for.
yeah.
And it's not like conspiracy theory, or like there are literally going to be food shortages. There are
Mhm.
literally going to be like people doing things to your privacy that
Yep,
I don't think is cool. And
yep,
and I think there's just, you want to just make sure you're prepared for it, and you're not overspending personally, you're not overspending in your business. If you haven't prepared financially for a slowdown, typically when buyers and sellers disagree on pricing, there's 3 to 6 months where the market stagnates.
mm,
If you don't have 6 months of money saved to carry your baseline living expenses,
mhm,
start right now to get that money in order, because there may come a time where you're going to need that money, where commission checks aren't flowing. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then the second thing is, like, really, I don't have a vested interest in people, and I think they should reach out to you and have a conversation about EXP, because in every ounce of my being, I think it's going to leave agents in a better place financially in the future.
yeah,
So just make sure you're in a platform. And we did a mastermind yesterday. I don't know if you were on it, but all of our best people are giving away their best stuff as it
mhm,
relates to all of these conversations.
yep,
Where I've been with all the brokerages and nobody was sharing their best stuff.
right,
Like, you hear like, hey, how'd that person go from 50 million to 200 million in
yep,
3 years?
yep,
But they wouldn't actually tell you how they did it.
right,
But we all own the company.
yep,
Like, you sell one house with EXP, you're an owner in our company,
that's right,
right? I was talking to somebody just earlier today. You sell one home, you get $200 of stock. You cap, you get 400. You bring
mhm,
one person in a year, you get 400. So instead of getting a trophy, you get $1,000,
yep,
currently like 40 shares of EXP stock,
yep,
you know, and I'll save 10 grand on health insurance this year because I put my
yep,
family over on EXP's health insurance.
yep,
So it's wild. So
it
I don't even
is.
know what the question was, but
No, you
that's kind of,
I think that was solid advice. I mean, I kind of, tend to agree with you as far as, like basically saving up some money and just being prepared for what's to come because yeah, there's all sorts of, ideas and stuff like that. But I think in general, just being prepared is, that's always good advice. But I think especially for these next few years, having some extra reserves and aligning with a company that is, going to be in your best interest, not just right today, if you think it's, but like also where is the puck going? Like what's going to happen here when the market turns, if the market turns, that type of a thing, and yeah, lowering your overhead and all that good stuff. So I mean, that's you nailed it.
and I'll add one more thing. And this is something I'm just getting into, and I think we even talked about it in Breckenridge. I think everyone needs to start understanding digital currencies.
Yeah, yep,
The dollar, the Russia just did a deal with India that they will now accept Bitcoin or ruples for oil,
oh
where
wow,
it used to be like the US dollar was the only oil currency around the
yeah,
world. That's going to go away. They've been talking about it for 15 years or 20 years, but now there are actually signs that that's going away. So the value of the dollar is going to go down to nothing. And I still think there's like so much upside in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and just
yep,
like those are the gold and silver of
yeah,
crypto, and
of
and
modern
just get a
day, yeah,
basic knowledge, working knowledge of crypto, because I think when the shit hits the fan on the dollar, even more so than is happening now, inflation
hmm
is real, right? You go to buy
hmm
gas and it's 40% higher.
yep,
You go to buy eggs
and,
and they're like 60% higher.
yep,
So a lot of people aren't even going to be able to afford food, in the
yep,
next 3 to 6 months or so. And so, yeah, crypto.
yeah. No, I
That's
love
my
it.
other word of advice.
I love it. Well, good stuff. Well, Lars, hey, if there's some people that maybe want to get in touch with you, just kind of, talk a little bit more about you, with you, team side, just anything, what's the best way to kind of get in touch with you? How do you prefer people do that?
Yeah, I would say just go to the podcast. Real
Yep.
Estate Team Builders is the name of the podcast. I do an interview on a Monday, and I kind of riff on a Thursday, and I kind of
Nice.
rant on Thursday. So it's a different style every week. But you can talk to people. I bring them back usually to one thing they're doing really well in their business. So I go to real estate. I think it's real estate team builders podcast.com.
Okay.
I could not find a short URL. It's real estate team builders podcast.com. So
It,
it's kind of lengthy, but yeah, I would just check that out.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again, Lars, for your time. And I'm so, like I said, so blessed and honored to know you and to be in your circle and just be able to talk to you. And man, you're just such a good person. You're a good skier. So shoot, it's man, I don't know about rummy. I mean, I think I still took the rummy title, but you can't win everything, right?
Yeah, I won once though.
You did. That's right. Yeah, you did win once. Well, no, it
All right,
was
brother. Well, you be good. Let me know if there's anything else I could do for you.
likewise. I'll talk to you later, Lars. Bye bye.
See ya.